Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever the fuck you're tuning in. This is another episode of Tailgate Trashtalk, brought to you by Backyard Sports. I've got a fan of a team who's playing a big old rivalry game this week. One of the more regionally, at least, hotly contested rivalries. I was informed today how much hatred there is. I knew, obviously, in state. I knew that it was a true rivalry, right? You guys really hate each other. But you kind of filled me in today a little bit when we were chatting on just how hotly contested this rivalry is. So it's an exciting weekend for Bentley. I'm back from Huntsville, Alabama, and as you can see in my tagline, a little bit of influence coming back. It's no joke when you see the commercials and the clips of people just speaking in Roll Tide. It is legit in the great state of Alabama. But anyway, Bentley, how you doing, man? Excited about this weekend? What how you feeling?
Gary, this is my favorite calendar week of the year. And it has less to do with the Palmetto Bowl than you might even think.
Oh,
It's it has literally nothing to do with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving it's a cool holiday, got it, right? It is
it's the
feast
flat screen
week.
TVs on Friday, huh?
It is feast week, my friend. I
Yeah.
just I just watched unranked Florida State take down number 18 Colorado in overtime.
Yes, sir.
JMU is playing on the big screen in the other room. Duke plays tonight. Later we get Marquette, Kansas. We get Purdue, Tennessee. These are our college basketball games, man.
Yes.
We get the Maui Invitational this week, the Duke Classic. They're playing in Daytona, the JMU game I just talked about. Not to mention, it is rivalry week in college football. We get freaking Michigan, Ohio State. You mentioned Carolina, Clemson. The Iron Bowl is going on this weekend.
Yep.
I, uh, I,
Egg
I,
Bowl, Iron
the,
Bowl, all those
the,
SEC
the
games.
Egg Bowl
Oh man.
Thursday night. Yeah, we get
Yep.
we get 3 NFL games on Thursday. We get an NFL game
Yep.
Friday.
We got a full slate of college football on Friday too. Holy
Yes,
cow.
we do. Yes, we
It's going to
do.
be a tremendous
The Civil
weekend.
War is this weekend.
Yep. Yep.
This is the best calendar week of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't even take into account college basketball because this is like the coming out party for college basketball, right? Like
Yep.
we get the preseason tournaments, we get a lot of those kind of coaches versus cancer and some of those other sponsored tournaments, kind of to kick off the season. But this is really the week when, and it kind of coincides with right the college football season is winding down. We got our last regular season week of football. There's obviously a couple of straggler games and then, championship week leading into bowl season. But this is kind of college basketball's coming out party. So I'm glad you brought that up for sure.
Yep.
It's all week. All week there's games everywhere. And yeah, they misspelled it on the jersey though.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. I'm simply a hater, and I'm fully aware of it. I'm not a Carolina fan. I'm not a fan of any rival team with Duke. I like to hate on Duke, especially because my brother's a Duke fan too. I like to give him a hard time.
It's fair. We embrace it. I get one winning franchise. I embrace it.
It's fair. It's fair. It's fair. I don't have a winning franchise right now.
Dude, there's plenty of room on the bandwagon, brother. Come on down.
Yeah.
Durham would love to have you.
Yeah, Bama almost got me, man. That was interesting down there to really interface with those folks and just how much love there is. I don't think it's an exaggeration when they say like Saban could retire and run for governor and be governor for life.
Oh yeah,
it's like God, Saban, family.
Yeah.
Down there,
faith, family, football, man. That's the 3 F's in the South, baby.
Yep, for
faith,
sure.
family, football.
Absolutely. Hey, Dad.
Super shows.
Appreciate coming on.
Baby.
But anyway, man, let's jump into it. Last week we had some action. Wasn't the biggest of slates. Wasn't the greatest of slates. There were some tune-up games in the SEC, especially with UL Monroe and Chattanooga taking some beatdowns. But there were a few games on the slate that felt pretty important. Georgia playing Tennessee. We talked a lot about Tennessee and kind of how we thought they might have done a good job of reloading. They're really skidding kind of into the finish of this season, and Georgia despite Tennessee scoring on their first play of the game, 80 yards to the house on the ground, Georgia comes back and scores basically 30. I would think it was 35 unanswered, and then they exchanged field goals or something like that. It was crazy.
Yep.
Georgia looks like the real deal, huh? Especially hours back.
Yeah, I mean, I told y'all last weekend there's a gap between Georgia and Missouri, who's the second best team in the East, and then there's another gap between Missouri and everyone else. Yeah. And Tennessee resides in that everyone else category in the SEC East, right? Nationwide, they're better than a lot of teams out there. Got it. But specifically talking the powers that be in the SEC, there's a gap. And that gap between Georgia and everyone else nationwide is even larger than it is with them in the SEC teams.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What do you want to talk about? What's a game that stuck out to you?
We should talk about that Missouri team.
Let's talk about them, dude. They are playing real deal football.
Yeah.
Like one with Florida, but outlasted them.
Yeah. One of the wildest stat lines that I pulled out of this game was it had nothing to do with any individual player, right? So Florida kicks a field goal with 3 minutes to go on the clock to go up 31-30. And then Missouri goes on a 12-play, 62-yard drive. That's
the clock.
Yeah, just running clock. But it only took a minute and a half. It was it was one of the strangest things I'd ever seen. You go 12,
they tried like hell to bleed the clock.
Oh yeah, for sure. They absolutely did. And then obviously they ended up kicking the 30-yarder to go up and 33-31 and essentially ended the game there. Missouri kind of squeaked this one out. I don't know if it was a look ahead per se. I think that they kind of understood, because they're playing Arkansas this week, so there's nothing to really look ahead to. But it was one of those where it was kind of like Missouri understood that they lost to Georgia, so their hopes of making it to the title game were dashed. They would have had to see Georgia lose this week to Georgia Tech anyways. But, excuse me, that Missouri team, I don't know, we've liked them all year long, I think, between you and I. It was just strange to see them have to squeak one out against not really a rival. When I think of Missouri and Florida, there's not really history there. Missouri obviously coming over from the Big 12 not too long ago to join the SEC East. But for a number 9 team in the country to squeak out a 2-point win against an unranked and a not good Florida team who lost their starting quarterback, by the way.
Yeah.
The kid who transferred from Wisconsin, whose name is Graham Mertz, broke his collarbone, which, that sucks. But
yeah,
I just thought it was interesting to see Missouri have to squeak one out is all.
Yeah, I think this was one of those kind of SEC trap games. And I think what we've seen from Florida as well is their issues are not talent, because we've seen them be in a couple of these games, right? And we'll see this week too as they take on Florida State, which is a game we're going to talk about coming up. But the unfortunate injury with Jordan Travis really changes kind of the tenor of that game, right? Are they going to get the explosive offense that they got late in that game against a very bad tune-up team after Jordan Travis went down or not? But I think what this game illustrates as well is there are no fucking off weeks in the SEC, and that's why we on this pod and across the nation, a lot of the talking heads continue to say you can talk all that shit you want about ACC, Clemson winning a national title, yada yada yada. Any given week, whatever, you can find a way to find a win, but when you're tested week in and week out, and you can't take off weeks, right? Even we've seen Vandy come up and surprise a team here and there, right? They've not, obviously Georgia, Bama are probably a little more immune to something like that, but we've seen Vandy come up and knock somebody off. We've seen these teams, Kentucky, right? They'll punch you in the mouth if you let them, that sort of stuff. And there just aren't any off weeks in the SEC. So
that's very true.
Tough. Ask Jimbo Fisher how tough it is to win in the SEC.
What was that? I can't hear you. Oh, yeah. My money in my hand.
That's true. That's true. My money phone isn't working, but it spends well.
Yes, it does.
I want to talk a little bit about Michigan, Maryland, because it felt like this was very much a look-ahead game, and Michigan almost paid the price late in this game. Maryland got within a score late. It was 13 points at the half, and I thought, okay, Michigan's going to go on and win by 3 scores. It would have helped my ticket as well because I had Michigan minus the 19, and I was like, well, 13 and a half, let's stretch that lead out. We'll be all right. And then suddenly, like it was like Michigan just decided in the second half, like, we're going to look ahead to Ann Arbor next week and welcoming Ohio State into town. I worry when teams do that, right? Before these big games, can you turn it back on?
Yeah.
Right. We had the 33 straight run plays in the second half against Penn State the week prior. And again, this week, it looked like in the second half, Michigan was a different team. Do you still feel Michigan is the better team coming into this matchup with Ohio State? Did these last 2 weeks tell you anything that flips your understanding or at least your assessment of them?
Oh, man. We're getting right to this early, huh? So, in my totem, just to give a little sneak preview, I still have Michigan 2. I am less inclined to believe that the Jim Harbaugh not being on the sideline thing plays as large of a role as some people are making it out to be. I believe the Ohio State game will be his 6th game this year of not being on the sideline.
Yeah,
because he missed the first 4. Whatever it was, it's either 5 or 6, whatever. But it's almost as many games with him not on the sideline as there was with him on the sideline, right?
Yeah.
And they've been one of the best teams in the country all year long, right? So is it really, really different with him gone than with him being there? That being said, they have not dominated teams the way that I would have expected them to. Especially
that's been a team almost all year, huh?
But
especially teams.
Yep, exactly. Like the Rutgers game, they bullied pretty good. Yep. But the Penn State and the Maryland game, they did not. Which are games now. The Penn State game may have been kind of a one-off because, like you mentioned, they ran the ball 32 times to close it out. That may have been like a fuck you, Penn State. We're just we're just bigger and better than you are.
Yep.
I like that you mentioned it could have been a look-ahead game to this, what is probably the biggest game of all this entire season, right? Felt like maybe the Red River game was really big. The Texas-Alabama game was really big. But this is late in the year. It's rivalry week. Both these teams are undefeated. They're going for playoff positioning. Like, this is going to be the biggest matchup of the college football season until we get to the SEC title game.
Yep.
Not to give away my pick, but I did take Ohio State to win this game. I think that if you
have the money line, you weren't just taking the points.
No, I think they're going to win the game.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. The confidence levels of these two programs have flip-flopped 100%. Mm-hmm. Early in the year, people were saying Michigan, Big Bad Wolf, they're running the ball on everybody, Blake Corum, doing all these things, J.J. McCarthy for Heisman, all this stuff, right? Somewhere along the line, Ohio State kind of flipped the script on them, right? And I told people early, I said, this is an Ohio State team of old where they don't have the superstar quarterback.
Very young as well, early in the season.
Yes, absolutely. But these upper echelon programs, the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, they recruit so freaking well and they develop their players throughout the year that at some point right around the middle of the season, I can't pinpoint exactly when it happened, it sort of flip-flopped the confidence levels of these two programs. Michigan did not, as we just mentioned, bully teams down the stretch of games. And this freaking Ohio State team has figured out how to get just enough out of Kyle McCord and how to scheme up 1v1 matchups for their mutant freak wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're running the ball up the gut with Travion Henderson extremely well these days. They come out in the 1-1 formation with 3 wide receivers, spread you out, and hand the ball and stuff it up the middle on programs. And their defense is really good too. I mean, I can't pinpoint exactly when it happened, but these programs seem to do a flip-flopping scenario where I have more faith in Ohio State now than I do in Michigan. And if you had asked me at the beginning of the year, while I did believe that Ohio State was a very good team, I had more confidence in Michigan than I did Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree with you on all points, right? With one exception. I think I have convinced myself that Michigan has the last 2 weeks been assuming, right, that they were going to be able to win against Penn State and Maryland without their best effort, because that's what was on the field, right? That's the product we saw on the field. That was not Michigan really putting the boot to Penn State or Maryland. They should have beaten Penn State by probably 3 scores, maybe 4 scores.
Yeah.
As much as they dominated Penn State defensively, they should have been doing similar on offense. But I think, like you said, it was either a big fuck you, we can just run the ball 33 times and still win this game, or it was just very conservative. We don't have to. We shouldn't take any chances. We're winning this game no matter, or maybe a little bit of both, right? But the Maryland game, to me, it really feels like a look-ahead game that got a little scary at the end, right? It got a little tight. Butthole puckered a little bit near the end, but I've convinced myself as I've thought about this game that Michigan has spent 2 weeks preparing to put the middle finger up to the NCAA, put the middle finger up to the Big Ten for the suspension of Jim Harbaugh, and they are 100% all in. They're always all in on the Ohio State game, right? I understand, biggest rivalry in college football, right? But this feels like, to me, this was all hands on deck. We are preparing for the final weekend of the regular season to really stick it to the NCAA and the Big 12 or Big 10 when it comes to, obviously the lashing back out for the suspension. So I am going to lay the points with Michigan. I still think that Michigan is one of probably 2 teams that feel like complete football teams in college football right now. Georgia being the other one. Bama, I still have some question marks about whether or not they can rely on Milroe in crunch time. But this feels like one of the more complete teams in football. So I'm going to stick with that. Maybe I'm not giving Kyle McCord enough credit, because early in the season we were talking a lot about it, right? They were going to win games in spite of him. They were going to ask him not to do a lot. He wasn't the world-beating quarterback that they've had with like C.J. Stroud, right? Especially right in recent memory. So I'm fully prepared to be wrong, though, because if this is Michigan just being stale because they don't have Harbaugh, they can't do that against Ohio State. They're going to get beat bad against Ohio State if that's the product that they put on the field against Penn State and the product they put on the field against Maryland loses by multiple scores to this Ohio State team.
Can I give you kind of one off the beaten path reason why Michigan would have extra motivation in this game?
Mm-hmm.
One player specifically is going to have a lot of extra motivation. It's going to be Blake Corum's last game in the Big House.
Yep.
And he has never played against Ohio State.
Oh, that's right. He's been hurt.
He was a true freshman, so he didn't you could count that as being at the game, right? But the last 2 years, injuries have kept him sidelined against Ohio State. So he's going to come out with his hair on fire, most likely.
And they already put the poster up.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah,
this is it, buddy. This is your last shot. You could sweep them in your playing career. Again, I can be honest, I don't remember if he redshirted or not as a freshman, but regardless, this is his first time actually playing as the guy, healthy, with a team as good as anyone against Ohio State.
Yeah, definitely some extra motivation for him. All right. Let's see. What other games you want to talk about here on the slate from last week?
Let's see. I had one picked out. Where was it? Oh, Kansas State, Kansas.
Yeah.
Kansas losing by 4 while playing a former walk-on third-string quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not unimpressed with them, right? They did everything they possibly could to win this game.
Shot at winning this game.
Yeah, I mean, Lance Leipold. I know he says he wants to stay at Kansas. Everything I've read and I've heard says that he wants to stay at Kansas.
Someone's coming.
I can hear that freaking train a rolling, and
someone's booster club is coming with a boatload of cash.
That is a money train, and it is stopping in Lawrence.
Yes,
and it is going to dump a boatload of cash, and it may be Kansas.
Maybe.
Kansas has.
Listen, that's a university that does have money.
Yeah,
if they're willing to spend it on the football program. They can afford it.
Yeah. But shout out to Kansas State for winning the Sunflower Bowl 15 consecutive times. Or the Sunflower State Challenge, whatever they freaking call it. They beat Kansas 15 times in a row, that's tough to do. I don't care who you are. That's tough to do. To beat someone 15 times in a row. And I believe that if Bean had been able to play quarterback for Kansas, they probably would have won.
I agree. Yeah, I told you, and I gambled on him playing, and then Twitter kind of gave me the okie doke with the way they announced the fact that he was announced with the seniors for senior night.
Yeah.
They made it sound like he was playing, and I was like, oh shit, my ticket's got a real chance.
Yep.
But then I don't know. I wasn't watching that game. I was paying attention on the CBS Sports app because I had a couple other games that I was watching on the screens. But about halfway through the game, I saw that Cole Ballard. Cole. I always forget. But he had thrown a pass, and I was like, oh fuck, Bean's nicked up, right? And then I go and look, and like Bean never played. So, I was like, I got the fucking okie doke from Twitter. Although the ticket still had a chance, man.
It definitely did. Yeah, I mean, he threw 2
turnovers were killer, but
yeah, they turned the ball over 3 times. Cole threw 2 picks. He was 11 for 16, which is good. And their running back gave him 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. But it's the 2 picks is really kind of what sealed the deal for him.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
They did win the second half. I guess that kind of counts for something.
Wait, let's.
You want to talk about our darling Nick Fafita?
Ooh, let's do that. Because it's time, buddy. It's time. We've been kind of hedging our bets on Arizona for a month now.
Yeah.
Are they good? They seem like they're good. They're good, bud.
They're good. They're real good.
Bud. They just beat up on a good Utah team.
Yep. Anytime Bryson Barnes throws the ball 53 times, that's not good.
You put Utah on a bad spot if he's throwing the ball 50 times.
Yeah.
Look, they're good, man. And I have to say, too, what's maybe most impressive about Fafita's success is, this isn't a talent-rich program. He's not out there throwing to 4-star and 5-star wide receivers and handing the ball off to 4- and 5-star running backs and standing in a pocket behind 4- and 5-star offensive linemen.
Yeah.
He's throwing the ball to walk-ons and 2-stars and 3-stars from the state of Arizona and New Mexico, right? They went to Albuquerque High School. He's killing it, dude. And that defense is playing inspired football. They have held some good offenses to pretty low totals. Yep. Colorado, who can score points. Utah, who we've seen score points. UCLA, although they played a couple quarterbacks there that they were struggling. But that's kind of a product of the defense suffocating the offense, right? So
Washington State, they held to 6.
Washington State with Cam Ward, who's a fucking freak.
Yeah, at Wazoo.
It's time, buddy. It's time. Arizona's a good football program.
Jed Fish, another guy with a large payday coming his direction.
Doing the Lord's work there in Tucson for sure.
I think I would be less surprised if he left than if Leipold left.
Yeah, I would agree. It's Arizona is 100% a basketball school, and they're not I don't think, anyway, that they're one of those programs that has a lot of money to throw around in the booster club. I could be wrong. But I mean, all these D1 schools have obviously some alumni that have gone on. But I think I would agree with you that I think this is much more of a stepping stone for him than Leipold probably feels like Kansas is for him.
Yeah, I think Arizona probably doesn't have a small endowment, is my guess.
Yeah,
but I know for a fact that Texas A&M has a much larger endowment than does Arizona.
Yeah,
and
as evidenced by the 9-figure check that they cashed on the field before the game last week.
Yeah,
when they fired Jimbo Fisher.
Yep, it would not shock me if Jet Fish and Noah Fafita are both in College Station next year.
I think that's actually a really astute observation, and I think you probably are right. I had a sneaky feeling for a little bit that A&M would be calling Coach Prime, but maybe not. Jed Fish would be a good hire for them, though. I think he's proven his worth, especially with taking an Arizona team. They're 15 now, I think.
Yep.
top 15 program. So
they'll go up again, I assume.
yeah.
I just don't know if Jed Fish is a flashy enough name for College Station.
Maybe.
They're a very prideful program. He definitely is worthy of a job like that. I just don't know that. I don't know if he is the splash they're looking to make. But I could be wrong. I don't. I just kind of said it wouldn't shock me, right? But it wouldn't shock me from a football standpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he makes sense.
There is a connection between Arizona and A&M as well. With
they can trade coaches
the other direction.
Yeah. Trade coaches back and forth.
Yeah. Sumlin went the other way and didn't have the success at Arizona that Jed Fish is having. But
nope.
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't be surprised because you get the quarterback package too, right? Because Max Johnson's gone. He's going to age out. And they're going to be looking to replace the, whatever inventory they're going to lose at the quarterback position. And they don't have options behind Max Johnson. So they're going to look to the transfer portal. They're going to look to obviously bring in recruits. But if you can hire a coach that's got a guy that's going to come with him, that's especially a guy who's had success this year. I think that's a good opportunity for sure. Because Prime, on the other hand, isn't going to have that luxury, right? Because the transfer portal rules have kind of scoped in a bit. And I know when coaches change positions, they get a little more leeway. But it'd be interesting to see if A&M does come calling for Jed Fish. I like that. I want to talk a little bit about Florida State, and I know they played North Alabama, right? So we're not talking about the game itself, but I want to ask you, because we've made it clear how we feel about Jordan Travis, right? He's one of the better playmakers in college football. He's a guy who can do everything for that offense. Are they going to be able to withstand that and beat? They're going to play Clemson in the ACC title game, right? I think that's locked up.
No, they'll play Louisville.
Sorry, Louisville. I misspoke. Louisville, yeah.
Yep.
That's locked up, right? So are they going to have enough to offer the Cardinals?
That's so tough. I mean,
they leaned a lot on Jordan Travis.
Yeah. The good news is that they have explosive playmakers on the outside, specifically Keon Coleman in that offense, that you just you look at this team and you look back at the Cardale Jones Ohio State team, right?
Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah.
This team probably not as good all around as that Ohio State team, but their defense is really good. They have one of the best edge rushers in the country on that roster. They have Keon Coleman, who's a first-round draft pick at wide receiver.
They're not playing Big Ten teams.
Yeah, they're playing freaking Louisville.
That helps a little bit.
But, you just kind of hope that Rodemaker can come in and be functional, right? You're not expecting him to do all the things that Travis could do because he just is not Jordan Travis.
He's not Jordan Travis, yeah.
I expected him to handle business against Florida this weekend. It's going to be the backup bowl, with Graham Mertz and Jordan Travis both going down. I expect them to win that game. I don't expect them to beat Louisville. I know Louisville's a team that's kind of had your number all year long.
They fucking have. God, I've been so stubborn about Louisville and paid the price on several occasions.
Yeah. Specifically this weekend, another team that had your number all year long, Miami.
All year long. I've been on the wrong side of both of those teams all fucking year.
Which happens, dude.
It does, but man. Yeah, they've had my number for sure.
If they were to go on and win the ACC title, that's when it truly, truly gets interesting because you have a 12.
I was going to ask you that question too.
A 13.
He's going to take that into consideration.
Yeah, you have a 13-0.
Yeah.
You have a 13-0 Florida State team with a backup quarterback. It's
Power 5 champion, but
yeah. Again, it happened to Ohio State with Cardale Jones. So really, what needs to happen
when they hung a 50 burger in the Big Ten championship that year on a good team, on a good Wisconsin team too.
So you gotta hope if you're Florida State that Rodemaker can come out, and handle business and look really freaking good.
Yeah,
worthy of playing in a CFB playoff game.
So let's assume they handle business against Louisville. Maybe it's let's say 35-24 24 game, right? They win by 2 scores. Are you taking a one-loss Alabama team? Say Alabama beats Georgia, and Georgia's going to be in because they're Georgia and it's one loss. One-loss Bama team over Florida State?
You're asking me tough questions.
I know. That's the joy of it.
So, if you're asking me personally,
put yourself. You are in charge of selecting.
I'm in charge of the committee.
4 teams going to the college football playoff. Are you taking a one-loss Alabama team over a 13-0 ACC champion with a backup quarterback?
I am, because that one-loss Alabama team is a SEC champion.
Okay.
So the question...
One-loss Oregon?
Yeah, because they'd be the Pac-12 champion.
Okay. One-loss, let's say, assume Michigan beats Ohio State, but it's a field goal game. In the Big Ten championship, right? Or Michigan beats them this weekend, and they swap. One-loss Big Ten champion. It doesn't matter who. One-loss Big Ten champion.
Well, there I think it does matter a little bit.
Okay.
If you have a one-loss Ohio State, and it's a field goal game in the title, I think Ohio State gets in.
Okay.
If it's a one-loss Michigan, so if Michigan wins this weekend, Ohio State wins the Big Ten title, because that's how that would have to work. Then you have a one-loss Michigan who's not a Big Ten champion.
Right.
I think you put in Florida State.
Okay. So a one-loss Big Ten champion, though, assuming Ohio State wins this weekend and Michigan wins next weekend, or vice versa, you're putting the one-loss Big Ten champion in, but you're not putting in the second-place finisher, correct?
Yes. Unless it's Ohio State. Then I think you have to have a real conversation, because Ohio State draws ratings and it draws money.
Yeah.
And we know.
Oh, dude, no chance that's not like the number one criteria. They can talk about strength of schedule. They can talk about quality opponents. They can talk about control time. Nope. Number one consideration. That's why Notre Dame gets in to all the big bowls that they get.
Yep.
One loss, Texas.
Over an undefeated
Florida State.
Yeah. Because they're a conference champion.
Okay.
And their one loss was in a rivalry game to an Oklahoma team that's going to end the season ranked. So they would have one loss to a ranked opponent.
Yep. And Oklahoma spent some time in the top 5.
Yeah.
So, okay. Or top 6. I think they got as high as 6. But okay.
Let me give you my ideal scenario.
Okay.
This is what I hope happens. Florida State wins out. Easy peasy.
Yep.
Michigan wins this weekend. Ohio State wins this weekend. Michigan wins the Big Ten title. So you have a one-loss Big Ten champion. No, yes, one-loss Big Ten champion, one-loss Ohio State.
And one loss
as the title winner.
Okay.
Washington loses the Pac-12 championship to Oregon. So they each have one loss, but Oregon is the conference winner.
Buddy, I love where you're going. I want as much chaos as we can get. I love it.
And then Alabama beats Georgia in the conference title. So you have the only undefeated team is Florida State.
And they probably get left out.
And everybody else has one loss. That's what I want.
Could you imagine how much publicity the CFP committee would generate if one loss Georgia, one loss Michigan, one loss Bama, and we'll say one loss Texas, right? Those 4 teams get in, and 13-0, Florida State is on the outside looking in.
And one loss Oregon as the Pac-12 champion.
Right.
And one loss Washington who've been
as probably the regular season champion, right? In that scenario, they're the regular season champion,
yep.
Right? Wow.
That's what I want.
I love it.
I want it
I want
badly.
All the chaos. All of it.
I want it.
All of it.
Or if Jordan Travis was playing, I would want Louisville as a one-loss champion in the ACC and one-loss Florida State
with Jordan Travis sitting there.
Jordan Travis.
I like it. All the chaos, man.
I don't know how familiar you are with Danny Cannell and his work.
Yeah.
But oh my God, if that whole 1-loss scenario in undefeated
He
Florida
would
State,
fucking lose it.
oh God, he would lose it so bad. And I'm here for all of that.
All of it. All of it. He would lose
All
it.
of it, dude.
Not
Yes.
only is he a Florida State alum, he
Yep.
is an ACC stan beyond. He's so clouded in his judgment half the time with the ACC. He's one of the guys I think about all the time. When I mentioned earlier talking about like the SEC, you never have off weeks. He talks about, oh, our bowl record, this, our bowl. I don't give a fuck about your fucking bowl record, bud. Look at how awful that conference is, and look how many off weeks you have in the ACC that you don't get in the SEC. And everybody wants to talk about Chattanooga against Bama in Week 12 is weird. I don't give a fuck. They just played a brutal SEC West schedule. You're not going to convince me that they don't deserve a week off against fucking Chattanooga.
Yep. There are 2 ACC teams in the top 25, and one of them is 7-4 Clemson.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy. ACC's kind of weak as usual.
It's a basketball conference, baby.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. 100%. All right. Any stragglers here on the menu? Our Tulane Green Wave put their thumb on Florida Atlantic. They didn't cover, but they put their thumb on them.
They're going to be the high. If they were a 12-team playoff, they would make it in because the highest rated Group 5 team. So shout out to them for that. Yeah, next year.
Yeah.
Sam Hartman, we mentioned him playing against his old team. Threw for 4 touchdowns and no picks, so good for him.
Yeah. Wake Forest is just not on Notre Dame's level.
No, not even a little bit. I do think there are 2 games not on our list that I would like to shout out real fast. Shout out to my boy Austin Hubbard, University of Kentucky graduate. Yeah. Shout out your boys, the Wildcats, coming to Columbia, South Carolina, and getting that ass handed to them. Rude was in the building to play the Sandstorm Mix pregame, the most electric pregame in college football. That's you solid. Cannot prove me otherwise. I will not be convinced otherly. And then
no Enter Sandman, huh?
No, Enter Sandman is second for me personally.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
And only on Thursday nights.
Yeah. It's
Thursday night in Blacksburg, Enter Sandman is different.
I'll tell you, I was in the building last year for Vatek versus they were playing West Virginia.
Oh,
and that's a bit of a border war, a bit of a border rivalry. It's not like it wasn't crazy in terms of like the discontent. It's one of those more kind of like mild rivalries. It's just we're neighbors, right?
Yep.
But dude, being in that building for fucking understand, holy shit. If you're a college football fan and you ever have a chance to go to Blacksburg on a Thursday night and just for the pregame, man, it was absolutely electric in the building. We were up fairly high with our seats, so people were just going fucking bonkers. They were all sauced up. We were in the juice section, and man, it was fucking electric.
Yeah, and the players do that long walk from the locker room, and they walk through the sandstone archway, the tunnel under the stands, dude, carrying the American flag. It's wild there. I'm not a Virginia Tech fan. I pretty much actively root against them because growing up in the area, it was just shoved down my throat, right? But I will give them credit for being as close to an SEC experience you can get on a Thursday night in the state of Virginia.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome.
Also, one other shout out we have to mention, New Mexico State. Shout out my boy Diego Pavia, coming into freaking Jordan O'Hare and putting that work on the Clemson or the Auburn Tigers. Yeah, I mean, the funniest part about it is the coach at New Mexico State, whose name is escaping me at the moment, and I apologize for that, was also the last coach to beat Hugh Freeze when he was at Liberty. So he's now 2-0. Yeah. He's now 2-0 in his last 2 against Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
Which includes 4 different universities.
I know.
It's great.
At the same university.
Yeah, it's great. I love that. It's very funny to me to see. Now, I will say we talk all the time about look-ahead games and trap games or whatever. My assumption is that was a trap game for Auburn, right? It's a pay game. They paid New Mexico to come over, and then they lost
like
to
1.4 million or something.
Yeah.
They took took the L to. But they got the Iron Bowl this week for sure.
Exactly.
I think you're right. A look ahead game. Auburn's not Auburn this year either.
No.
Hugh Freeze, it's going to take him a couple of years to get the recruits in. Last time we saw him recruiting at a big SEC school, he killed it. Left them high and dry with some sanctions, but he killed it.
Yeah, but they look pretty good though.
Yeah, now it's legal.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Well, maybe not the hookers and cocaine, but the money aspect for sure.
Right, exactly. I got one last shout out I want to just kind of throw out there from last week. I wanted to grab the Twitter video, but I didn't end up doing it, so I apologize for that. But you shared it, I shared it in another group. We're talking a lot about it. It's a big deal, man, because you look back at like the movie Rudy, right? And the underdog and the walk-on and all that spirit. And Joe Montana's come out and like been a fucking douchebag about, it didn't go out. No shit, it's a fucking movie, asshole. Jesus Christ, Joe. Fucking miss me with that shit. But anyway, Texas A&M, 1 week after letting maybe most pretentious and dickhead coach in college sports go, rolls out for the last kickoff of the game. In a game they're up by a bunch, but they roll out an entire 11-man walk-on special teams unit for the final kickoff of that game, their last home game, right?
Yep.
Big deal, man. I love those kind of stories. I love seeing that shit. Warms my heart, gives me the tingles, especially at the college level too, where these kids are just toiling away. They're students. They go to these universities often, especially as walk-ons. They go to these universities often because they either grew up in the area or they grew up as a fan and they just wanted to be part of the football program. Yep. At either maybe it's their dad's alma mater or something like that. Right? There's a whole lot of stories about that stuff. For them to roll 11 walk-ons out for that special teams unit, that was fucking awesome. Hats off.
They got the turnover too.
They did too. That's amazing. It ended with a fucking fumble.
Yep.
You can't script this stuff.
No, not at all.
It's crazy.
That was a great moment. I'm glad you brought that up.
For sure. All right, bud. Well, let's jump into this week's games.
Yep.
Talk to me about some of these on the slate because we got a bunch of rivalries. We got some ranked on ranked, but we got a big slate because not often are these rivalry games, these big program versus big program. It's a lot of in-state rivalries, border wars, etc. Talk to me a little bit. We're going to save our final thoughts on Ohio State, Michigan for last, but I know we talked quite a bit about that already. We'll save that for last for some closing thoughts. But talk to me about a game you want to highlight here.
Do we want to save Michigan, Ohio State? Do we want to touch on it again? Because, I mean, that's the one of the day. That's the game of the day.
That's the big one.
We'll talk about something else for a minute before we go back to that one, right? Let's talk about the Civil War, man. Yeah. Oregon State, Oregon.
Yep.
This now, I believe it has been written in ink that they're going to play this game for another 5 years, even though Oregon is moving conferences, which I do love. I think that's phenomenal. I really appreciate that. Despite the conference realignment, these border wars and these in-state rivalries are able to continue because it truly is what makes college sports, in my opinion, better than professional sports, at least from like a fan base and passionate standpoint, right? But this game, regardless of whether it's an in-state rivalry or not, it should be a pretty good game. Yeah.
Yeah.
It.
What a job! What a job up there in fucking Corvallis. Holy shit.
Yeah, they brought in an alumni and Steve Johnson, I think is his name. I think he has like a very generic name.
Yeah, it's a white bread name for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, he played there. He's an alum. Like he is Oregon State football, right? He's another guy that could be looking at a payday coming up here pretty soon. This is a matchup that I think will be an entertaining matchup because it's going to be the strength of the defensive line for Oregon is their best unit on that side of the ball, and the strength of the offense for Oregon State is them rushing the ball, right? Martinez is one of the best backs in the country. DJU can tuck the ball and run, as we've seen in Clemson and in here. I think that Oregon State might struggle to score points, so I don't think the game will be as close as maybe we would like it to be, but it's going to be passionate. It's going to be hard hitting. And when you get a game like this, like the Palmetto Bowl, like Ohio State, Michigan, Kentucky, Louisville, like pretty much every game being played this weekend, there is not a coach in the world that's afraid to run it up against their rival, right?
Right.
So it could be exciting from the standpoint that Oregon has made it well known they're trying to get Bo Nix the Heisman.
Yeah.
And he's going up against Jaden Daniels, who's been putting up ungodly numbers.
Fucking believable numbers.
So it may turn into a track meet for Oregon, right? But you're going to see...
I expect that LSU game to be a track meet as well. So
for sure. Absolutely. 100%. But you're going to see hits out of bound. You're going to see horse collars. Like, you're going to see the dirty things that these teams are going to try to do that Oregon State is going to have to do if they want to win this game.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a big one. I love that Oregon State is relevant. I don't know what it is about Oregon State. Like, I have a bit of a soft spot for them. I don't know if it's because like they're the other Oregon team. Adley Rutschman played there. That's part of it, but it's been going on for quite a while. For me, I like their color schemes as well. The black and orange. I like that. I like that color scheme. So their alternate gray jersey is pretty sweet too.
They have a good kit, dude. They have a really good kit.
For sure. You're right there in Nike territory. So.
Yeah. I was just saying they're playing Oregon, who has maybe the best uniforms.
Yeah, right. You got to keep up with your in-state brother.
Yeah.
You know, of all of these, there's unfortunately, right, as I was looking at the spreads for this week, a lot of these rivalry games have big spreads, right? I do want to talk about Florida State, Florida, because we mentioned, you know, what that looks like. I'm actually gonna take the points with Florida. I think they're gonna keep it close. I do think Florida State gets the win, but I think Florida State's gonna rely really heavily on the run game and their defense, and they do have some playmakers on that side of the ball. I think they're gonna try to slow this game down because I don't know that they want to just put it in the hands of their backup quarterback several times this game. So I think it's going to remain tight. I think Florida's going to get up for this because it's an in-state rivalry game, but I don't know, man. You're laying the points of Florida State. You think they're just that much better than Florida, I assume?
I do, yeah. So Florida's going to be starting a true freshman, and like I said, Florida State has one of the best pass rushers in the country, projected first-round draft pick on rushing off the edge.
Yep.
Now, Florida has a pretty good two-headed monster at running back, but their offensive line is not wonderful. Their best player on offense is Ricky Pearsall, who's a receiver. I don't know who's going to get him the ball.
Yeah, that's a big concern.
I don't believe in this Florida team. It's not a knock on their coaching staff or any of their players. It's just they've kind of underperformed this year. They're not the Florida of old. Right, they've been through some coaching changes, like the Dan Mullen thing didn't work out. That
was a
disaster. You know, when you don't recruit, it kind of sucks. But I think Florida State is a much better roster than is the Gators. It doesn't really scare me, the points, you know, but I could be wrong. The thing about you mentioned a lot of big lines, right, coming into these rivalry weekends, and I was driving home today, thinking about how I was going to play this slate. And in my head, I was like, man, there's a bunch of big lines. I'm just going to take all the favorites. Like, it just makes sense, right? Like, you just take all the favorites. They're favored for a reason. They're better than these teams that are playing against. But then I was like, I'm rooting very, very hard for an underdog this week, and I believe that we can win. The same thing is happening in 65 other cities across the country. And these coaches are telling the players that. So then I was like, I don't know. I don't have strong leans on a lot of these games. I'm just playing the favorites because it's what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's what makes this weekend so awesome is like these games don't have to make sense.
Right.
So I would take the points with Florida. I would lay them. Or Florida State rather, excuse me. I would lay the points with Florida State. I think they're that much better than Florida, who's been underachieving, and they're playing a backup.
Yeah. All right. I get it. Any others you want to highlight?
Yeah, the Texas Tech game.
Mm-hmm.
Texas, to me, has not played a complete game since the Alabama
They
game,
haven't.
and that's a little concerning to me. I don't think they're going to lose this game. Don't get me wrong. But I would love to see them blow out a team. Just once.
Just bully someone before you play Oklahoma again.
Yeah, like there. I heard someone talking today. I believe it was Andy Staples, the On 3 podcast, and he said maybe in a short week like this, you just kind of turn off your brain and let your best players be better than their best players.
Mm-hmm.
I like that from a coaching aspect, right? Like you go out and you say, "Hey, we're in-state rivals. You guys played against these boys in high school, more than likely, or at some 7-on-7 camp, whatever. There's a reason that you're here in Austin and they are over there in Lubbock.
Yeah.
Now they have the Red Raider and Guns Up and all that stuff. You know, Mike Leach.
Baby.
Yeah, we're freaking UT, dog. Like, let's go out here. We have 7 freaking NFL players on our offense. Let's go out here and play like it, right?
Right.
I would love for Texas to come out and just kind of lay the hammer. It would make me feel a lot better for backing them all year long.
I agree. If you're gonna feel good about going into that rematch against Oklahoma, you kind of want to bully somebody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, A&M, Brian Kelly. I he's got a big buyout at LSU as well. So
yeah, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know that he is going to go anywhere, but I love the joke. I love the joke reference though.
Bam-a-lay. Fuck Brian Kelly, dude.
Yeah, Skurs are fucking favored this weekend, man. How disrespectful is that to Iowa? But it's in Nebraska. Anything can happen, right? Because Iowa's offense ain't gonna scare you.
No.
So 2.5, small margin. Maybe they cover. The over under is a paltry 26.5.
Lowest ever opening total.
It's unbelievable.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so fun. Yeah. The younger Ferentz is gone.
As he should be.
Take the under.
Yeah, for sure. It's like taking a Wizards over.
Yeah, fucking easy money. All right. Any other games you want to highlight? I think you're right. Ohio State, Michigan. We kind of covered that. Any others you want to touch base on here before we get to our totem?
Again, there's so many not interesting, but interesting because they're rivalry games. Right? Like, I mean, I have to talk about Clemson, South Carolina. I do. It's on our
board, man. Let's go off the board.
It's on our board. Clemson's 24, baby.
ESPN doesn't have them ranked.
Well, I'm looking at it right now. Like updated 4 seconds ago, right?
Yeah.
So Clemson is number 24 in the country.
You know what? I think I put this in before the new rankings. Yep.
Totally fine.
Let's do it. So Clemson, South Carolina.
Clemson comes in at 24th in the country. They're 7-4. They're 7-point favorites on the road playing a night game. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Turkey Day.
Playing an unranked 5-6 South Carolina team. Carolina is playing for their season. They need to win this game to get to bowl eligibility, right? Spencer Rattler, 15th in the nation in passing yards. Xavier Legette, 7th in the nation in receiving yards. Our defense is playing better. We have 9 takeaways in the last 4 games, right? We've played 11. Yeah, I think it's the last 5 games. We have 9 takeaways. Regardless, our defense is playing so much better this back half of the season than we were in the first half of the season.
So much of a difference too.
Yeah. Nick Emanwari, our number 1 quarterback, got his first interception of his career in the end zone last year in the student section. That was freaking electric, dude. He intercepted the ball in one end zone and celebrated in the other end zone. It was insane. Yeah. Also, so fuck the refs in that game. Personally, he intercepted the ball, downed it in the end zone, was running the ball back to the other end zone, got tackled on the 25-yard line. Like tackled, like live play tackled. No call. Refs were not good in that game. Regardless.
Yeah.
I believe that South Carolina can come in and win this game. I truly, truly do. Clemson, you said it before we started streaming this pod. You said that Clemson could be got this year, and I totally believe it.
Yep.
We got them last year. We beat them by point. We had some turnover luck. I got it. We're not turning the ball over.
Home.
Yes. One.
That's worth a field goal.
There is an individual that will be present at this game. There's a very divisive individual, so we don't have to delve into that. But if you're going to the game, check your bag for tanning lotion because it may be stolen. Lock down your toupees because
especially if you got
windy.
that spray.
Yeah, you got that spray tan sauce, man. He's coming for it. I hope South Carolina scores 45 points in this game because that would just be electric.
Yeah.
I believe that Carolina can win this game. Fuck Clemson. And I hope that Mike White gets fired. Or not Mike White. Mike White, the DC in South Carolina. I hope that he gets fired after this game. I told you that Spencer Rattler accepted his invitation to the Senior Bowl, and he did. But somebody asked him whether he was coming back or not. And he said, you never know. Which is ironic because we got breaking news on Monday night that another player on this team is for sure coming back this year. And that's none other than Antoine Juice Wells, who scored 2 touchdowns last year against Clemson and then scored a touchdown against Georgia this year before re-injuring his ankle and being out for the rest of the year. But I'm all in, dude. I'm on the Cox. Give me the money line. I'm in. I believe the boys can rally. They have the best pregame ritual playing Sandstorm. I'm in, dude. I will be driving back from I will be waking up in Columbia, South Carolina Saturday morning, and I will be booking my travel so that I will not miss a second of this game, barring traffic.
Adapt and overcome.
Yeah. I'll be watching that Michigan Ohio State game on my phone while driving home.
On the dashboard.
Sorry, Mom.
We'll be as safe as we can, promise.
Yes, absolutely. It's everybody else you got to worry about, not me.
Yes. I own all the lanes.
Yes.
All right, but let's get to our totem because there was some shake-up this week.
Yep.
Obviously, the Jordan Travis injury changes things. And I think that, the state of college football right now with how certain teams are playing versus the way other teams are playing led to some of this change this week. I want to ask you first.
Yeah.
Because you had Florida State completely out. And I'm going to be honest with you, that influenced me a little bit. I had moved Florida State to 6th. But the more I thought about it, I ended up taking them out, right?
Yeah.
Because I'd had them at 6. I'd had Oregon actually out and Bama moving in. But I'm with you, right? The Jordan Travis injury is such a big deal. Talk to me about what you think that means. Are we gonna not like? Is Florida State gonna take the L? Assuming it's eventually gonna be in the ACC title game.
Yeah,
we're not gonna have that controversy because, God, that's a lot to ask of a backup quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't expect them to win the ACC title.
All right. So you just kind of rack and stack moved up, but you moved Bama up. So I'm assuming Bama's been right there on the cusp for you for quite a while, right? Because they have been for me. I've considered moving them in and moving one of the Pac-12 teams out probably for I want to say the last 2, maybe 3 weeks. I've considered that. I finally kind of tore the Band-Aid off this week because maybe it's the Huntsville brain in me a little bit still hanging around, but I just think that, God, they're playing such good fucking football right now.
It is. So it's a 7-team race for me.
Yeah.
We do 6 on our totem. It was 8 until the Jordan Travis injury. And then after this weekend and after next weekend with the title games, then I'll have it locked down at some point. Right.
But eliminators. Yeah.
But the totem, the way that I do it is who I think are the top 6 teams right now. And those are the best 6 teams playing football currently in my mind. Yeah. I think Oregon is better than Washington. I think Alabama might be better than both of those teams. I told you, we discussed it a little bit earlier. I said that the more I watch, I think Georgia is the best team in the country. And I think the only team that has the athletes on their roster to compete with them is Alabama. And that's if they play their best game. I think that the Big Ten schools have the defenses, and I think that the Pac-12 teams have the offenses, but I don't think they can pair them together enough to compete with Georgia. So for me, Georgia's the best team that there is. Alabama, if they play their A game, probably the second best team. But right now, until those teams lose, I can't put Alabama over them. I just can't do it.
Yep. No, I get it. I moved them over an undefeated Washington. I moved them over an undefeated Ohio State team. And like you, I'm trying to treat this as like the teams that, in my opinion, and I've paid the price for this, right? With Penn State, with Clemson early in the season, Oklahoma right after the win against Texas, they went out and laid 2 fucking eggs in a row. So I've tried to kind of put it in terms of like in this moment in time, who are my playoff teams and who are my next 2 out, right? So that to me, I just think Bama, if Bama played Ohio State, I'm picking Bama. If Bama played Michigan, I'm probably picking Bama, but I'm giving Michigan the reputation pick, right? Because they were in the playoff last year as an undefeated Big Ten champion, and they haven't lost other than that playoff game against TCU, which I still stand by. It was kind of a fluky game. It was a weird game. TCU got a lot of favorable bounces and busted coverages in the Michigan defense that are uncharacteristic. I just think Georgia and Michigan right now are by themselves as 1 and 2, and I'm leaving them there for those reasons. I don't know that I would pick Michigan over Bama, and I'm going to be honest with you. I do think Bama is the only team in the country that beats Georgia. I just think that right now, the way Alabama's playing football, but I couldn't bring myself to move Bama to number 1 yet. I'm anticipating after the SEC championship game, Bama's going to be the 1 seed going into the playoff. And Georgia will probably be 2 or 3 with Michigan, Georgia, Michigan, or Georgia, Michigan, or Georgia, Ohio State are gonna match up as the 2-3 game, and then we'll see who kind of, what plays out with the 4 seed, right? Is it going to be the Pac-12 champion? Is it going to be Florida State, the ACC champion, that sort of thing?
Yep.
So we'll see how that plays out. That's just where my thought process is right now on my totem.
For sure. Makes sense.
All right, bud. Well, great episode, man.
Yeah.
Let's bring it to a close. You got any closing thoughts for us?
Yeah, well, fuck Clemson, obviously. Also, Duke is up 10 at halftime right now, so not a big deal. Playing LaSalle, powerhouse university. Everybody, they're 4-0. We're only 3-1. Like, we're probably the underdog in this game, but that's okay. I'm just juiced up. I know that you recognize it in my text to see Juice Wells coming back for another year, man. I'm so excited. If Spencer Rattler does not come back this year, Lenore Sellers is a freaking stud. He's 6'3", 245. Wears rec specs, dog. Like, I don't know how you
Grant.
Yeah, like, I don't know how you don't just love that. We also just got a 5-star offensive lineman recruit, a 5-star defensive lineman recruit committing. Like, yeah, Carolina's on the up, man. Carolina's on the up.
I like, especially when you start seeing that stuff in year 4, right? For a coach, right? You get that full recruiting class. Now we can really see, is Beamer going to be able to make this program sustainable?
Yep.
You've kind of picked off a couple of wins against some big time opponents, but haven't really been consistent over the Beamer's tenure yet. As you get more and more of these 4- and 5-star guys coming in, and especially, right? I said Horace Grant, but Eric Dickerson as well, right? Another football player that had the rec specs. I love. It's there's something about it, man. I love the look. It's so awesome when guys are willing to just throw the rec specs on and go play ball.
It's so much fun.
But all right, man. Well, hey, appreciate you. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to those out there tuning in.
Yep.
This has been another episode of Tailgate Trash Talk, brought to you by Backyard Sports. We are